Hi, welcome to the CSKnovels YouTube channel. Here, we tell stories that transport you to distant worlds and immerse you in the emotions of every character. Today, we have a special treat for you, a tale of love, loss, and the courage to begin again. The story we're about to dive into is called The Romance Novel Off a Lighthouse Keeper's Love, a heartwarming narrative that takes place in the quaint town of Havenport, where the sea meets the sky and a lighthouse stands tall, holding the secrets of one man's broken heart, the story. In the small coastal town of Havenport, the lighthouse had always been a symbol of guidance. Its light, strong and steady, shone across the turbulent waters, a beacon for sailors lost in the dark. But for its keeper, Liam McAllister, it was much more than a job. It was a sanctuary from the world, a place where he could lose himself in the routine of tending to the light and forget the pain of the past. Liam, a man in his early 40s with salt and pepper hair, lived in the lighthouse alone. The wind-whipped cliffs and the endless expanse of sea were his only companions. Years had passed since he had given up on the dreams of exploring faraway lands. Once, he had been filled with the fire of adventure. But all of that changed when he lost Anna, the woman he had planned to spend his life with. Her death had extinguished the light inside him, leaving only the lighthouse to occupy his days. The small town of Havenport, nestled below the cliffs, was quiet and unremarkable. Its residents were polite, but distant, and Liam seldom ventured into town except for supplies. He had grown comfortable in his solitude, finding solace in the routines of checking the lighthouse's mechanisms, watching the sky for storms, and listening to the ocean's eternal song. But one warm summer evening, as the sun painted the horizon with shades of gold and orange, Liam's life took an unexpected turn. As he climbed the winding stairs of the lighthouse to check the lamp, he noticed a figure walking up the steep, rugged path toward the tower. It wasn't often that visitors came to the lighthouse. Most stayed in town, or simply admired it from afar. As the figure came closer, Liam could make out the shape of a woman. Her long, dark hair flowed behind her in the breeze, and she moved with purpose, her steps steady on the uneven ground. She was dressed simply, in a flowing dress that danced in the wind. Something about her presence stirred a deep sense of curiosity within Liam, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. "Hi," the woman said as she reached the foot of the lighthouse, her voice soft yet filled with confidence. Her eyes, a striking shade of green, met Liam's, and in that moment, it was as though the world around him faded, leaving only her. Liam hesitated, unsure of how to respond. It had been so long since he'd had a real conversation with anyone. "Hi," he replied, his voice rough from disuse. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said with a gentle smile. "I was passing through Havenport, and I've always been drawn to lighthouses. I couldn't resist coming to see this one up close." Liam nodded, unsure of what to say. "You're welcome to look around. It's quiet up here, but the view is worth it." The woman's gaze drifted to the horizon, where the sea met the sky in a shimmering line. "It's beautiful," she whispered, almost to herself. For a while, they stood in silence, watching the waves roll in. The peacefulness of the moment, the quiet companionship of her presence felt both unfamiliar and comforting to Liam. "My name's Liam," he finally said, extending his hand. She smiled again, her touch light as she shook his hand. "Claire, it's nice to meet you." Over the next few days, Claire returned to the lighthouse. Each time, she and Liam would sit on the cliffs above the sea, their conversations growing longer and more personal. Claire spoke of her travels as a writer, how she was gathering inspiration for her new book. Liam, in turn, shared stories of the lighthouse, of the storms he had weathered, and of the endless sea that had become his world. Claire had a way of listening that made Liam feel truly heard, and as the days passed, he found himself looking forward to her visits more than anything else. Her laughter echoed through the lighthouse, filling the empty space with warmth. Her stories of far-off places reignited something in Liam, a spark that had long been buried beneath the weight of his grief. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Claire turned to him, her eyes reflecting the fiery hues of the sky. "Do you ever think about leaving this place?" she asked, her voice gentle but probing. Liam stared out at the horizon, his heart heavy with the weight of the question. "I used to," he admitted quietly. But that was a long time ago. Claire's smile was soft, almost knowing. "There's still time, you know. The world is still out there, waiting for you." Liam chuckled, though there was a sadness in his eyes. "Maybe," he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Liam and Claire deepened. Their conversations became more intimate, and Liam found himself opening up to her in ways he hadn't with anyone since Anna. He told her about his lost love, about the dreams of adventure he had buried, and about the pain that had kept him tethered to the lighthouse for so long. Claire listened, her eyes filled with understanding and compassion. She never judged him, never pushed him to move on before he was ready. But her presence alone was enough to stir something within him, a desire to live again, to find joy in the world once more. And then, one night, everything changed. As a storm rolled in from the sea, the wind howling and the waves crashing against the cliffs, Claire turned to Liam, her voice low and filled with emotion. "I'm leaving tomorrow," she said. "I've finished my book, and it's time for me to move on." Liam's heart clenched at her words. He had known this day would come, but he hadn't realized just how much he would dread it. "Where will you go?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm not sure," Claire replied, her gaze drifting to the stormy horizon. "But there's so much more to see, and I'm not done exploring." Liam nodded, though inside he felt a deep ache of sadness. He knew he couldn't ask her to stay. Claire was a free spirit, and he had no right to hold her back. But as she turned to leave, something inside him shifted, something that had been dormant for far too long. "Claire," he called after her, his voice thick with emotion. She turned to face him, her eyes wide with surprise. "It's time for me to leave too," Liam said, stepping closer to her. "I've been hiding behind this lighthouse for too long. It's time I start living again." A brilliant smile lit up Claire's face, and in that moment, Liam knew he had made the right decision. The lighthouse had been his refuge for so many years, but it was no longer where he belonged. His heart was with Claire, wherever that might lead them. Hand in hand, they left the lighthouse behind, ready to face the world together. For the first time in years, Liam felt alive again. And in Claire, he had found the love he thought he had lost forever. Brothers, that's the end of our story for today. Ho ho, don't rush, wait a minute. Thank you for joining us today on CSK Novels, where stories come to life. If this tale of love, hope, and new beginnings touched your heart, we invite you to visit our website at CSKnovels.com, where more beautiful stories await. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest releases. And remember, love and adventure are always just around the corner, sometimes in the most unexpected of places.